40. Cities that grow food. When agriculture went vertical. The prediction, what we thought. As urbanization accelerated toward the end of the 20th century, a quietly radical idea took root. Cities would grow their own food upward. Instead of sprawling farmland far from consumers, crops would be cultivated in multi-story buildings. Controlled environments would replace seasons. Water would be recycled. Pesticides would disappear. Food miles would shrink to elevators. In this future, agriculture would move closer to people literally. Skyscrapers wouldn't just house offices and apartments. They would feed the city. Standing in 1999, this idea felt visionary but grounded. If cities were the future of living, they might also need to become part of the future of farming. Why this prediction made sense in 1999? The pressures were already visible. By the late 1990s, urban populations were growing rapidly. Arable land was under strain. Climate variability was increasing. Supply chains looked fragile and inefficient. Traditional agriculture depended on vast land, stable weather, and long-distance transport. Cities depended on food systems they did not control. Vertical farming promised resilience. By bringing production indoors and upward, cities could decouple food from geography and climate. Farming would become predictable, local, and scalable. This belief fit perfectly with millennium-era optimism that engineering could stabilize nature. Just as factories controlled manufacturing conditions, farms could control growing conditions. For younger readers today, it's important to remember that in 1999, urban farming was still mostly symbolic: community gardens, rooftop plots, novelty projects. The idea of feeding cities internally felt ambitious, not incremental. Who said it, and where? The modern vision of vertical farming was most clearly articulated by Dixon Despommier, who began developing the concept around 1999 while teaching at Columbia University. Despommier argued that vertical farms could address food security, environmental damage, and urban sustainability simultaneously. His proposals framed farming as a systems problem rather than a rural tradition. What made his work distinctive was its practicality. This wasn't science fiction. It was a reconfiguration of existing technologies: hydroponics, artificial lighting, climate control. By the end of the 1990s, the idea had intellectual momentum, even if implementation lagged. What actually happened, 2000 to 2025? Vertical farming arrived quietly, then unmistakably. The early 2000s saw experimentation. Costs were high. Energy use was challenging, but technology improved. By the 2010s, LED lighting became efficient and affordable. Hydroponic and aeroponic systems matured. Automation reduced labor costs. Urban demand for local food increased. By the early 2020s, vertical farms operated commercially in many cities. They produced leafy greens, herbs, and specialty crops year-round. Supermarkets stocked produce grown blocks away. By 2025, vertical farming was a recognized agricultural sector. Cities hosted commercial indoor farms. Food production partially decoupled from land and weather. Vertical farms didn't replace traditional agriculture, but they supplemented it meaningfully. The prediction that cities would grow food vertically was no longer speculative. It was operational. Verdict. Status. Realized. Vertical farming exists and functions at commercial scale. While not dominant, it has become a legitimate component of modern food systems, especially in urban environments and for specific crops. Why it played out this way? This prediction succeeded because it solved multiple problems at once. It reduced transport costs. It improved freshness. It stabilized supply. It appealed to environmental and localism values. And it benefited from advances in lighting, automation, and data control. Crucially, it didn't require replacing existing systems, only complementing them. Vertical farming found its niche rather than demanding total transformation. The future favored integration over revolution. What this prediction teaches us about the future. This case highlights a powerful forecasting insight. Technologies that move systems closer to demand tend to win. Vertical farming didn't triumph because it was futuristic. It triumphed because it was convenient, resilient, and adaptable. In 1999, growing food in skyscrapers felt symbolic of a high-tech future. In 2026, it feels practical, almost obvious. The future delivered cities that don't just consume, they cultivate. One sentence takeaway. We didn't abandon farms, we stacked them closer to where we live.